What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Gaming News Weekly. Today we got some news, funny things said about Skull and Bones. We got big IGN news and an interesting story about Toys for Bob. So let's get to it. First up, we got some really cool news about Helldivers 2. Now this is that like bug shooter, Starship Troopers type game that Sony released and went day and day on PC. This one actually hit 100,000 concurrent players on Steam. That's pretty cool. That doesn't happen very often, especially for something. This seems like kind of a almost AA type game, and to hit 100,000 concurrents, first off, just shows, I think, for Sony that this idea of putting that more live service type games day and date with PC can work. Right? That's first. And also just as good things for this developer. They made a big step up to put it this third person and over the shoulder type view instead of the over the top. It's a much bigger budget and it seems like it's going to work out. So very cool. Next up was Capcom, who did an interesting survey over the last week where they asked about their back catalog and what games we would want to see remade or remastered. Now, I hope you saw that. I don't know if it's still up or not. I'm not sure when the date was for that. But I hope you got on there and voted. A lot of people were talking about Dino Crisis. For me, I was talking Breath of Fire. I think that would be the most important. But, you know, whatever you wanted to vote for, that's what you should have. There's a lot of cool options. Capcom has a lot of great games in their history. So there's a lot of good options there. If it is still up, you should go vote. If not, hopefully something good comes of that, right? Also, Persona 3 Reload ends up selling 1 million copies in its first week. That is the fastest selling game for Atlas. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That shows how much they have proven themselves to the gaming community and how much people trust what they're doing. I think that also spells really good things for Metaphor ReFantazio, which is due up later this year. So that is good things. Persona 3 Reload, I've been playing through it, and I'll get some first impressions kind of up soon, and then review down the line. But hope if you haven't, it's a great game and definitely worth your time. And finally, the little stuff before we get to the bigger news, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo, which came out after that state of play, right, that was specific about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, as I said before, I did not watch it, I have not played the demo, and I've done that on purpose. I want to experience it first when I have the full game. I'm not interested in doing stuff before then. So if you did, I hope you enjoyed it. But the news is not so much about the demo coming out or whatever, but how hard that demo has hit. Tons and tons and tons of people have been sharing all kinds of stuff that I'm constantly trying to ignore about how the demo played and how good it was, and it just seems like this demo is hitting hard. So between that demo, the week early review embargo, all the things, this is setting up to be one of the best Square games, one of the best Final Fantasy games, and I would definitely put that on your calendar if you have not already, and be ready to spend some serious time in possibly one of the best video games to come out this year and who knows how long. It might not be, but it is certainly shaping up to be so. We'll find out. Alright, now into the bigger stuff. Toys for Bob is a developer that was gobbled up by Activision Blizzard. It's responsible for games like Spyro or Crash Bandicoot, right? So some of those they took over, but they made the Spyro trilogy and the Insane trilogy for Crash Bandicoot. Obviously those IPs didn't start from them, but they had brought under them, so they do a lot of that smaller stuff, kind of that platformer, that style. And so when they were brought on, they were doing these remaster games, but then they seemed like they kind of got brought in to just do more support for Call of Duty, because that game means so much because of pushing out so fast. And then we get this word that Toys for Bob was shutting down, and everyone's all upset, and we're like, whoa, why? What's happening, right? But then we get a little more information, and you go, okay, so they shut down the physical office and laid off a few workers. I'm not sure how many. So it still sucks. There's still layoffs. But they shut down the physical office, but they still have the remote office, which is the majority of their workers. So that's good in that they didn't just shutter the whole studio like we thought. But there's still some people who got laid up. There's still people who lost their jobs, and that always sucks, right? I'm very vocal about that here. Losing your job is an awful thing. And while it happens, and a lot of us experience it at one point or another, it's still a sucky thing for anyone to go through. And I always feel for people who have that happen. But I am glad that the studio itself isn't completely gone. I am glad that most of their people still have their job. I'm assuming we might hear more about this later, but it also could just kind of go under the radar now because they're not shutting down the whole office. So anyway, that's something to keep an eye on, but with any luck, that means we're still getting some of those smaller titles out of that studio. Well, going from a small studio to a big studio, how about the CEO of Ubisoft saying that Skull and Bones is a quadruple A title, and so it deserves not only the 70, 60, whatever dollar price tag, but also all of the microtransactions. Some of these sound bites are just ridiculous. Like, quadruple A, come on. If triple A still works for these $200, $300 million projects, I'm sorry, there is no quadruple A. Like, stupid. What a stupid thing to say. Look, just because you guys were idiots and couldn't figure out how to make your game and didn't have direction and didn't know what you wanted and didn't know how to direct your people to make a game that was worthwhile, but also that you took money from some, prince in Saudi Arabia or whatever it is that happened. I don't know the full story, but whatever that is that forced you to have to continue to make this game and finish it and put it out because their money was on there. That does not mean that you get to do whatever you want and say whatever you want about it. You sucked. You made the bad decision. You failed. That is not the customer's responsibility to then pay for your stupid million bajillion dollar game and also pay for transactions. Either it should be free to play with the microtransactions, which makes sense for a free to play game, or be paid and have cosmetics or whatever. I know it. I hate having the microtransactions, right? I don't think any paid game should have them. Obviously, that is not the world we live in anymore. So many AAA games have microtransactions in them. I hate that personally, but it is the world we're in now. So I guess we kind of get used to that. I just don't buy them. Right? I enjoy the game and I'm annoyed that I can't have that costume or whatever, but I still don't spend that extra money. That's up to you for whether you do or not, but I just think it's ridiculous for the CEO, was it Yves or whatever, Guillermo, I don't even know how you say his name, whatever, CEO of Ubisoft to be saying this quadruple A stuff, and that's why it should be this much money and have those. Get out of here, man. Get out. Okay, and in the last bit of bigger news, IGN, their workers have officially unionized. Okay, so this is the big block, okay? As we've been watching the countless layoffs, I mean, we've already talked about, 6,000 layoffs this year? So, as that is hitting the industry in record numbers, the developers, the PR, all of those people that work in the games industry have to unionize. Now, unions have a whole thing about them, right? There's good, there's bad, there's all kinds of things, okay? So I don't want to get into that too much. However, the point of a union was to protect the workers against a company who uses and abuses them. And it is, in my opinion, that is what is happening in the games industry. I totally understand that things end up costing too much money, or that you need all of these people, but you only make money periodically, so you can't afford it. Okay, but then you have to manage your stuff better, because we cannot be having 6,000 people lose their jobs in a month. You can't. That's not okay. So it is my opinion that the games industry has to unionize. And as IGN being the biggest workforce in that industry, to be the first to unionize is super important. This is the big domino to fall, to begin to push that for others. Now, whether that will eventually be like a gaming workers union where they all unite together, or they all have their small ones, who knows? That'll probably be years and years and years in the making. But the games industry unionizing is necessary at this point. I think there will be both good and bad ramifications from that in the industry. There will be. Okay, that is what has happened throughout the world from unions. Good things and also not good things have come from that. So we'll see what that turns from the gaming industry. But that is the next set of problems to deal with. And I really do think that the unionizing of the gaming workers has to happen to stop what's happening now, and then we will deal with the fallout later. I know that isn't always the best option, but you don't have much of one in this time and place. It just is an unsafe place to work right now, right? And has been. And while it's getting better on some things, other areas it's not. And I don't see that you have much choice if you want to work in the games industry. The unionizing of those people seems completely necessary. This will be something for us to watch. This will be something for us to see. I think that this is the first domino, and we will start to see more and more and more of these companies posting this, that they've unionized, that they've started this. And I wouldn't be surprised if down the line we will see one collective gaming workers union or whatever. But this is the beginning of a long process. So don't hold your breath. Just sit back and watch, and we'll see what happens. But I do think that this is the right move, and I think it's an important one. All right, so let's talk a couple games real quick. Game Pass announced their games. So the Game Pass games for February, obviously, technically, still February 1st, we did get Persona 3 Reload. So if you have Game Pass again, I highly encourage you to play that. But after that, we do have a little to the left, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Played Up, Resident Evil 3, the remake, Return to Grace, Train Sim World 4, I don't know, and Madden 24. That is okay list, right? There's nothing in there that I really care about, but I did get Persona 3 Reload, so I am probably fine. But having like Madden 24 at this point is probably good if you're a sports person or whatever. I think that makes sense. Resident Evil 3, after they had Resident Evil 2 as well, those are both big pickups. Also, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is a fantastic Metroidvania, and definitely highly recommend you give that one a shot. Epic is finishing up Doki Doki Literature Club and Lost Castle, and is coming out with Dakar Rally Racing, so dirt racing game basically. The PS Plus Extra and Premium tier should be announced today, so we'll keep an eye out for that, and on the next Games Weekly we'll talk about it. And then the other game announced this week was Lost Helden. It's a hand-painted JRPG style game. It'll be interesting to see. So this is the same developer that did Astria Ascending, which has been on my radar and one I've wanted to try, but it didn't do very well critically. It came at like a 68 or something, so basically a 7. That's not a terrible score, but it's also not a great one. So hopefully they have learned from what they've made, and because this one has a really cool aesthetic, but hopefully it will come out and be an improvement on all of those systems and things that they've learned over making these couple of games. But yeah, still something cool, something to watch. So, and lastly, we just ended the Steam Next Fest. I hope you looked into that and maybe found some cool games. I wanted to do a dedicated video, but I just ran out of time, and so I just want to take a quick second to say I hope you tried out, or at least got an eye on, Tales of Kinzera Zao. That's a game that the maker announced at the Game Awards, and highly recommend following him. He is a super positive guy. Yeah, that game's looking really great, so I'm super excited for that one. There's a bunch of other games on there, lots of cool RPGs and stuff, so definitely a good option to look at and see what some of the indie space is going to be coming out with in the near future. So yeah, hopefully we'll talk about some more of those as we hear more, but it was pretty cool. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out on Steam Next Fest. I think they do it every year. We'll try to get better coverage on that next time around when I'll be ready for it. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. Do me a favor, would you? And then, you know what? Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a good day and good hunting.